I need to do that so we can make sure that we get all this good information shared with everyone, and we'll post and let you know what the links are and how to view it again. And I will go over more of our information on a little bit more, just as a refresher, very beginning, on VMS signups and what to expect this year in terms of training, and then turn it right over to Debbie and Jeff. So we're still letting a couple folks in. I'm trying to be mindful of our time. So let's go ahead and get started, and welcome to our afternoon session for diagnostics. And this is designed to be an overview. By way of putting this into context, many of you probably know that last year we started on this process, to provide remote volunteer hour opportunities for our apprentices and our volunteers, and two, to help volunteers feel more comfortable in fielding questions at when they're on the office shift or when they're at an information booth. A lot of our website information has changed, has been reorganized, and so we want to point you in the direction of being able to find those resources so that you can help citizens with that. And then because of the popularity of the apprentice activity that we did last year, Debbie and Jeff graciously agreed to expand their offerings. Donetta has been helping too. And so we want to make this training available basically to all CMGs. And the nice thing is kind of this idea has been picked up at the state level as well. And you've seen that 2021 is a focus on diagnostics. So there's state curriculum that is available. There's a monthly webinar, there's a monthly practicum, and then we're also doing things locally. And so today's class is just going to be an overview and show you where to find things, get you ready to start the season, and be ready to go gangbusters to help our folks out there who are interested in getting questions answered. So with that, I will go ahead and get started. We will continue to admit folks as we move along. Again, I'm going to go quickly through our first slides because I do want to get to Debbie and Jeff as quickly as possible. So we're going to go over remote phone desks and office and procedures. I'm not going to share the office video that I shared this morning. I think most of you have had an opportunity to be in that office and kind of know your way around. If you want to see it separately, I'm happy to share it. We're going to talk a little bit about the client contact call log in Teams and VMS. I think most of you got familiar with it last year. Know that we are only using an online system this year. And so unless you can't use the online system, we want you to do that and not use the paper form. The volunteer topic restrictions, there are a few that, as you know, we don't discuss. And we refer those calls to staff. Debbie and Jeff are going to go over specifically where to find the resources. The extension website has changed, as you probably noticed. VMS has changed, and now we have Teams. So a lot of new stuff to get familiar with. And if you're like me, you probably forgot it over the winter. So we're going to refresh that for you very quickly. So this is a quick overview of what it looks like and what you can expect when you're at the office. Again, I'm not going to share the video at this time, just in the interest of time. I'm happy to share it with you later if you'd like to see it. It's a video and voiceover, a couple minutes, no big deal. we take, as you know, questions come in by phone calls, email, or Ask Extension. Ask Extension is the new name of Ask an Expert. So that platform changed over the winter as well. It operates virtually the same as Ask an Expert did, in that you click on the link to get to a particular question, and you actually answer the question on the Ask Extension platform. You do not respond to the email. So when Debbie and Jeff go in there and start to show you some information, we can take a quick peek at what it looks like in Outlook, but just know that now we call it Ask Extension, not Ask an Expert. And this is what the new email looks like when you receive one in the email inbox. This one down here that you can see that says AAE notify, that is the old form of email. But briefly, you're going to click on either one of these links. There is a login. That information is available on VMS in the voicemail procedures, and so you can follow those instructions and know how to respond to those questions. And if you have any questions about it, don't hesitate to reach out to staff. Client topic restrictions, as many of you know, there are restrictions to some of the things that volunteers can do. Emerald ash borer is one that the restrictions have changed slightly because the CDA has lifted the quarantine. It used to be that we wanted you to refer all questions to information that was on the CDA website. Because the quarantine's been lifted, we are now getting more and more questions down in our county. Folks are starting to pay attention to it, and we have different protocols for response. And this will be a topic that Debbie and Jeff dive into a little more deeply later in this call. Just know that those protocols have changed. You are free to answer EAB questions. And we've developed a whole series. We've got a lot of resources to share with you that you can refer to in answering those questions. Cannabis remains a topic that we are not allowed to discuss because we're a federally funded institution, being part of CSU. So because cannabis is still illegal federally, it's not something that we can discuss. Honestly, we don't get very many questions on this anymore. When it was first legalized here in Colorado, we got quite a few. That trend is down, but just know that. Any hazard tree questions need to be referred to staff. And that's because of legal liability. So we don't want to either get in the middle of any kind of neighbor dispute if a tree is threatening to fall on a neighbor's house, or if someone is concerned about a particular tree, that protocol needs to be handled very carefully. So if you encounter questions like that, please just be sure to alert staff. Commercial questions. We get questions from arborists working in the green industry. We also get questions from pest control companies. Those questions need to be handled by staff as well. Oftentimes they'll contact us in a different way, but sometimes it will come through to the Master Gardener desk, so just know to forward those. The herbicide rules, we have a disclaimer on our, at the bottom of all of our emails. It looks like this. So this is the bottom underneath the signature that's on the email, and it just is this disclaimer, which is similar to that pink sheet. For those of you who remember being in the office, we used to have a pink sheet that had this basic information that we would include in all of our correspondence. And just know that, you know, the key points of this is the client if they choose to read, if they choose to use an herbicide, they need to read the product label carefully and follow its directions explicitly, and that we're not making any representations or endorsing any particular product. And that really for further information, they need to contact the National Pesticide Information Center. And I want to check that. I'm looking at that right now. It says NIPIC. I'm not sure that's correct. Let me check that and make sure that that link is correct. But I'll fix that on the email inbox. Reporting. You probably are very familiar with the reporting requirements. The reason we report is because we share information up the channels through CSU, which ultimately goes to Washington, D.C. in federal reports, and extension funding is somewhat based on this information. So it's very, very important for you to share the information. We want you to report summary information of your office contacts on that client contact call log. And again, we'll refresh for you how to get there when we talk about specific questions, how to go into Outlook, how to find the client contact call log on Teams. And again, if you have any questions or concerns or can't find it, always reach out to staff and we can help you. We'd like you to report your hours by the end of the month. Especially for office shifts, it's often easier just to go into VMS when you're done with your call shift, and go ahead and put those 4 hours in. So you report in 2 different places for office shifts. One is on Teams, and that's where we capture the detail of that activity, and then also VMS. And so if you're working out in the field at a demonstration garden, you would only be reporting on VMS, okay? And not only does it help us share your impact, it helps us promote and develops program sustainability and talk about why we are doing the great work we're doing out in the community. So here's a snip of what this call log looks like in Teams. I imagine most of you are familiar with it. Many of you have used it through the winter. And again, we'll show you, you're going to access it up here and we'll go over a brief overview how to navigate to that location. But it's an online log. You don't need to worry about erasing anything. We back up this data, and it's backed up at the county level too. So we have lots of ways to get this information. So don't worry about using it. You really can't break it. And so we're moving to an all online system. Any questions on that? I went through it really, really quickly, but I want to give Debbie and Jeff the opportunity to talk about our diagnostics. Any questions at the moment? Mark mentioned poisonous plants and mushrooms. Correct. Those would be questions that we want to refer to staff. Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, we will move on to our diagnostics, and I'll turn it over to Debbie and Jeff and Lisa.
Debbie, you want to do Teams first?
It doesn't matter, Jeff. We can go in order. It doesn't make any difference to me, or I can go first.
Why don't you go first? Because I think since she was just talking about Teams, let's
okay.
show how you access that.
All right, let's do that then. Okay, so hello everyone. It's good to kind of see you and to see how many participants that we are having this afternoon. That is really great. As Lucinda said, this is kind of the year of the of diagnostics at the state level. We started this last year. We were going to work with apprentices, but we were also going to work with returning master gardeners. And unfortunate in the office, and unfortunately, you know, like so many programs, because of COVID, we had to kind of regroup and decided to just do apprentices last year, which we are going to continue this year, but we're also going to do some classes for master gardeners with diagnostic practice and in diagnostics. So yeah, I think, and we'll get to the exact dates and all at the end of the program, but just kind of keep that in mind. We've had a lot of comments from master gardeners about, you know, feeling intimidated by doing diagnostics and don't know where to start, et cetera. So hopefully the classes that we'll teach this year, the sessions that we'll have, will help you to feel more confident. So we're just going to talk about where you can find resources, because some of this has changed or been updated, or, you know, just a lot of things have changed this year. So the first one we're going to look at is the the Outlook, and you get that from outlook.office365.com. And what comes up is something that looks similar to this, although Lucinda has many accounts. So you want the Master Gardener at arapahogov.com. So she's going to put that in there. Sorry, I was fumbling there. And then the password is the same one we've had as when you're in the office: capital M, capital G, small case plant, and 2016. So this brings you to the Outlook page, where the emails, when you do a remote phone shift, where the emails would be. And then if you go into the left-hand corner and you click on the little 9 dots there, you can go into Teams. And you go to Master Gardener, the Master Gardeners, and you'll see a list of resources that are available to you. There's the contact call log, and there's the apprentice program that we gave this morning, and that is actually the calendar from the trainings. And then you get into some of the diagnostic things, and you'll notice that this is alphabetically by title of document. So we've got the diagnostic clinic insect worksheet, lawn worksheet, plant worksheet, the diagnostic process document. Then the next one is the PowerPoint that you are seeing now. And then there are 3 areas for emerald ash borer information, and we'll talk about those specifically in a little bit, but those are there, as well as the Japanese beetle talking points and the voicemail procedures for doing a remote desk that have been placed in Teams. So if you're on the email, much of the documents, at least, that you will need to do some diagnosing will be on Teams as well. Now, we will have some other places where they're located for other reasons, but and for other ability to get to those resources. But just know that it's all there for you, and you can get to that. Now, if you have a Mac computer, it may not come up this way. If you look up there where it says General, and you see Posts, and then you see Files, which is what she clicked on, a Mac may not come up this way, but the way that you get to these documents would be in a lot the same way. They will be, when you go to Outlook and you click on or you just highlight those 9 dots up there, you'll see where it says Documents, and underneath that you can get to all of the documents that are available, because these are only the recent ones that we have added, but they are all available for you. So you just have to kind of play a little bit if you have a Mac, because it won't come up in exactly the same way, but you'll figure it out pretty quickly. Actually, Lucinda, if we could just go back to where the emails are. So in Outlook itself, there, good. And then just highlight the 9 dots if you can, or just kind of go up there and see where it says documents down there. That's how you can get to them with from a Mac. And then you go to more documents and click on that, and they'll all come up in the same kind of format, like that. So, and there are more of them. So just know that you may have to play with it a little bit if you have a Mac instead of a PC. A little bit different. And then, it's, I think you'll be able to find the things that you need here. Now, as I said, we'll talk about Emerald Ash Borer in a little bit more specifically. So, Jeff?
Debbie, there's a question in the chat.
Yes.
About if you use a Mac but use Chrome as the browser. What browser do you use?
I use Chrome.
So I guess
And that's the way, and maybe that's the problem. Maybe it's more the browser that I use. I use Chrome, and I have to get through the documents in the manner that I described. Now, maybe if you're using a different browser, it comes up differently. I'm not entirely sure because I haven't tried like Safari. Maybe I'll try that. And if it's hugely different, then Lucinda can send some information. But I use Chrome, and I have to get to it in the way that I described. So maybe yours works a little bit different with a different browser.
Okay. Any other questions about Teams?
Lucinda, did you want to talk about the call log, show the call log? And most everybody should have used this last year, but.
Right. Just remember, I think it's helpful to know this is an Excel spreadsheet. And so it works like an Excel spreadsheet, just loaded into a shared file that is housed at Arapahoe County. So just remember that when you are logging into the Master Gardener email account, you're actually logging into an Arapahoe County email account. And so you're entering into the county platform, and they happen to be a Microsoft user. So that's why our platform is set up this way. Some other counties use Google Docs and have different setups. We just happen to be a Microsoft county. And so in order for us to have this availability for you to log in, this is how they're set up. So we're teaching you how to be good Arapahoe County employees as well. So the call log is set up. It's an Excel spreadsheet with multiple tabs, for January, February, March. Just be careful, especially if you're at the first of the month, that you tab over to the new month, right? So in May, we'll start here, right? Up in this location. So right now we're in April. And the spreadsheet hasn't changed. We're asking the same demographic information. Again, kind of highlighting, and I'm moving you guys over just a little bit. Be brief in the client question. If the client has more than one question, just kind of distill that down to the question that was asked and the question that you answered and how you provided the diagnosis. Summary is good. The category is a drop-down menu, so you'll be able to select soil or trees or annuals or turf, that kind of thing. List the documents that you referenced. For example, the extension lawn care sheet or Plant Talk 1505. If there's a reason for staff follow-up, you would put a yes in this box like that, okay, or a no. put the CMG, so put your name in here as to who answered that question. We do want to find out how they heard about us. So we'd like you to ask that question. That's why we've highlighted these two columns. How did they hear about us? And then would they be interested in being added to the newsletter? So if they want to be added to the newsletter, please be sure and collect their email address. It is a positive opt-in. And it's important to collect that email address, especially if, you know, it's a phone call and you don't have an email address that we can use. We don't just add these email addresses to the newsletter. It is a positive opt-in, but it is a way to continue to connect with our community. So we're continuing to grow that newsletter, and it's a great outreach tool. Okay.
Okay. Let's look at the CMG website, Lucinda. So Master Gardeners, you may remember back in the old days when we had textbooks and things like that. All this stuff is online now. And last year, Katie, our statewide coordinator, she created this Master Gardener website, which if you have not used it is a wonderful resource for us. And here it is. I'm going to go briefly over a couple of the tabs at the top. So on the far right, it says volunteer resources across from the home button, the home tab. And there are garden notes. That's our old textbook. We don't need to open it though. CMG Online. Let's take a look at that briefly. You have to have the password to get onto this stuff. So this is for volunteers. This is not open to the public. There's our Master Gardener Volunteer Handbook in case you have questions about policies. Scroll down a little bit more. Grow and Give. Public webinars. Those are open to the public. Scroll down some more. These are the ones that require a login. The diagnostic toolkit. So you can access this all from the Master Gardener website. And you can see some have been recorded that have already taken place. Some from the toolkit and some from other things. There's quite a lot of continuing education available for us there. Okay. That's the continuing education galore. Okay. Let's go back to the tab. Let's see if there's anything else I want to show on that, on the volunteer resources.
I'll back up a little bit in terms of Zoom, and then you'll be able to see better.
And then there's the toolkit. Hopefully a lot of you are familiar with that. Let's not go there. Well, we went there
Okay.
anyway.
Trigger finger.
I'm just trying to speed things along. And then VMS, you can get to there. And the Canvas link, that was what the apprentices used for their education this past season. Okay. Let's look over to gardening information. So this is the stuff that Katie really worked hard on. So do you want to look at Ask an Expert now or not, Lucinda?
Wherever you'd like me to go, I'm happy to drive.
Okay, let's not do Ask. It's called Ask Extension right now. Let's do, can you click on the gardening information tab again? Okay, we're all familiar with what Plant Talk is. Just go down to online garden publications, but don't click on anything yet. So for those of you that are not familiar with this, this is a really nice little option. So,
whoops, sorry about that.
So online garden publications, once you hover over it, a couple of possibilities come up. Extension fact sheets, which you are familiar with, and front range tree recommendation list, which you're also familiar with. But rather than going over and clicking on the fact sheet or the front range tree recommendation list, don't click on those, just click on online garden publications. Is it thinking?
It's
There it is.
thinking.
Okay. And these are our garden publications, galore. And what's really nice about these is they're alphabeticalized, and they're a great place if you get a question, if you want to browse for some ideas, like brainstorming almost. Okay. So let's click on lawns, for example. Somebody asked you a question about lawns. And look at all the different possibilities. There's aeration, there's diseases, there's dog spots, sod versus seed, fertilization, insects and mites, and so on and so on. These are all of the lawn articles. If you scroll back up to the very top again, we call to your attention something, what's on here. So if you look under aeration, just hover over lawn aeration. That's a plant talk. Lawn aeration during drought is also a plant talk. Lawn care is a fact sheet. Remember, plant talks are the most general, fact sheets, more details. And if you just hover over basic turf management principles, that's the garden notes. So that's the most extensive details. It's mostly for our resource. You could maybe do some cutting and pasting. In the rare instance, you might want to send the entire garden notes section to a client, but it's, you know how extensive it is. That's our old textbook stuff, okay? So this is a really nice resource now. If you're thinking, oh, geez, this guy's got a disease, if you come to lawns and look at diseases, look at the different diseases that are already listed here. Could it be this or blight or leaf spot or mushrooms? You got lots of choices you can research. It's really a terrific resource, okay? So try to remember that one. That's a really good one. Any questions yet? Okay. Plant select. I think a lot of us are familiar with that. That'll take you to the plant select site. We didn't get to show this to the apprentices this morning. So apprentices, if you're looking at this, you might want to check it out. Plant select are plants that have been selected by the Denver Botanic Gardens, CSU, and some members of the green industry. These are plants that are specific to our, they did not come from our area. They're not necessarily native plants, but they have been tested and have shown to do well in our area. If you click on search right place down at the bottom, Lucinda, search plant right place. This can be a really good good link to send to our clients if they're looking maybe for a tree. Click on tree, please. And then scroll down a little bit on the left-hand side. And you can pick some things like deciduous tree or evergreen tree or shade or whatever. And then it will give you some choice. Let's do evergreen, whatever you can get to.
Yeah, I don't know
So
why
these-
that's not populating fully. I don't know
Yeah.
if that's the website itself or the link, but anyway, we got to 2 of them.
Yeah, so anyway, but remember, these are only plant select items. They're not all the possibilities. We have fact sheets about a lot more extensive plants that are available, okay? All right, let's move on to what else is on that gardening tab. I believe the next one is the soil testing lab. And for those of you who do not know, the soil testing lab is moving. And if you look on their website, it says, there it is right there. The lab is under new management at this time. We cannot accommodate requests for expedited tests. Our turnaround time exceeds 1 month as of March 1st. We are closed to the public on Fridays. Thank you for your patience. So it's really hardly available to us this year, unfortunately. I believe it's migrating to Denver, correct?
Correct,
Mhm.
Okay.
correct.
Another possible resource under the gardening information tab is the cohorts blog. If you're not familiar with this, this is a great resource also. It's a good thing to read every month. A horticultural agent from a different extension office writes an article. This is from John Stolz this year from Jefferson County, and he's talking about protecting your plants from wild weather. Anyway, if you scroll down a little bit, let's say you want to do a little search, and there's a search box there. So maybe you want to search, we're on lawns. Let's do lawns or turf, either one.
Lawns.
And you will be able to find some older articles that were written. Snow mold. We're seeing that this year.
Mhm.
So again, it's a good resource, and you can actually link this when you're replying via email. You can link an article to your email. I have done that before. Okay. So those are all great resources that are right off the gardening information tab. Any questions about this tab? Okay. Let's take a look at VMS, Lucinda. Look at that. You can get to it right from this site. Woohoo!
You want me to log in?
Yeah, please.
You want me to, I can log in as a master gardener. Shall I do that?
Yeah,
So
let's
that,
do that. Do that.
yeah.
Okay. So up at the top, you're familiar with a lot of these things. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. Let's look at docs, documents. Let's see what's on here. Aha. Some of these things were in Teams, but not all of them. The diagnostic insect worksheet was on Teams. So was the lawn worksheet and the diagnostic plant worksheet. The diagnostic process, we're going to talk about that. I'm going to give you a plug for that one. If you don't already have that one printed out as a hard copy, I recommend it. Why? Because Debbie and Lucinda and I, we wrote it about
We
it.
wrote it.
It's soon to
It's
be a
really
bestseller.
You need this.
If you click on this, it will download. Just so you know, this is how it works. And your computer may have different controls for downloading files, and you may have to enable it, but it'll download this document to you.
Yeah, and in Mac it comes, well, if you don't have Microsoft, if you don't have Word, and you're using Google Docs, you can download it in Google Docs, because it'll come up kind of really small and a small window, if you don't happen to have Word on your computer.
Anyway, it's a great document. Debbie and I will be going over it later in just a little bit. Let's see what other documents are saved at on the BMS site. Japanese beetle talking points. Woohoo! Lisa's going to talk about that. The landscape design guide that was created, I think, this past winter in the worksheet for clients.
Zandy helped create that with help from Darren Davidson. And so this is it's a similar worksheet that helps clients when they call and say, I want to change my lawn, or I want to change my landscape, and how do I get started? We do not do design work for clients, but this is a questionnaire that akin to the worksheet that's designed to help the clients think about the kinds of questions they need to ask either themselves if they're doing it themselves or if they're working with another contractor.
Okay, insect calendar talks about when insects generally start appearing in our area. Lots of other things, voicemail procedures. So here's a little tip that I've taken to heart is voicemail procedures. I have downloaded that, and that is on my desktop on my computer because I always forget how to log into Outlook, and the directions are right there. So that's a really good thing to put on your desktop. And then there's some extra things that I think Martha recently added, different challenges on gardening, native plants, Firewise, all sorts. And there's some of the instructions also if you choose to go to, or when you choose to go to a demonstration garden, what the volunteer procedures are, okay, like silo and PCC and so forth, okay?
Right, and we do
everything-
excuse me, Jeff, I was just going to say, we do recommend that you read these when you sign up for an activity, okay?
There's some EAB talking points also. So the one thing about what's on VMS is there are no PowerPoints. So there happens to be a really good PowerPoint about EAB on Teams that I strongly recommend you watch. It'll give you some good information when dealing with clients, but it is not available on VMS.
Yeah, we'll be talking about that one shortly here.
Okay, where would you?
And any questions about the documents or how to access them on VMS? One thing in the chat. Okay. I think we're ready to go on.
So if we could go back to our slides, if that's
Oh,
possible.
okay.
Sorry.
There we go.
Okay.
Let me, there we are.
Yeah, and if we can advance to the, okay. So this is a question that has come in, and I'm sure maybe you've gotten them on your, when you've done a remote phone shift about what is the status of emerald ash borer. I've heard I need to treat my ash trees. When should I start? So as Lucinda said earlier, the protocol for answering EAB questions has changed a little bit. And we do have resources available that you can use to answer clients' questions. Remember, we used to send them all to the Colorado Department of Agriculture and their EAB site for information. But now that the quarantine has been lifted and the Colorado Department of Agriculture is not controlling a lot of that, we can find resources available to us in the places where Jeff talked about on Teams and VMS. And so we'll look at those specifically, and we'll talk a little bit about what's available. So we may be getting more EAB questions. So we'll just kind of go through these one by one here. So Microsoft Teams, we'll look at that file if possible. Lucinda is so good at this. I can't even imagine. We'd be everywhere if I were doing this. Who knows where we'd end up. We can go to the PowerPoint first. That's okay. That's EAB PowerPoint. And you know, everybody loves their alphabet soup. So Emerald Ash Borer in Colorado, Lisa created this PowerPoint, and this is the one that Jeff referenced. It is fabulous. There is so much information, and you can scroll through the slides, and it's just great information. And it talks about where it's located and possibly how it got here, and all kinds of information about emerald ash borer. So we really encourage you to look through this and become familiar with the information that's available. You can, access it on Teams. It is not in VMS, as Jeff said, because the file is too big and there's not enough space or whatever that VMS cannot download, or you can't download it to VMS, but it is available on Teams. So yes, there's ash tree identification, there's identification of the insect and the exit holes, which, as you know, are very distinctive, that upside down D kind of shaped flat top, and then the roundish U-shaped bottom, and what the larva looks like. And so it has wonderful pictures and a lot of great information. If you'll go down a couple more slides there, yeah, to the one with the trees, all this, there's 6 pictures of trees, one up, right there, yeah. And you can see what the damage is and how it happens, so that if you're looking at a tree that is suspected to have emerald ash borer, yeah, you can kind of see where the damage occurs and how it occurs there. So clients may be sending pictures. Clients may be sending pictures of exit holes, because remember, we also have the lilac ash borer in Colorado, which is probably in our area, in Arapahoe County, is active, and that has a round exit hole, and it doesn't kill the tree. Aesthetically, it may do some damage, but it does not kill the tree as emerald ash borer will kill the tree. So oftentimes clients will mistakenly diagnose it as emerald ash borer when really it's lilac ash borer. And we do have fact sheets on lilac ash borer. It's 5.614. There are also a couple of really good plant talks, which we'll get to in a minute, on emerald ash borer. So take a look at this PowerPoint. It really is packed full of information and is very, very useful. The pictures that are provided and the information. So look at that. Now, if we'll go back to the listing of files in Teams, would be great. Okay. We also have a EAB resources document. And if you'll pull that up, there are, this has just been created, and I think Lucinda, you and Lisa did this one. Yes. So these are all up to date. These websites, I think we've tried them all, and they're working well. So just a list of links that you can use, that you can also give to the client if you want to include that in your email or talk to them about that. And then if we'll go back to the listing, please. We also have EAB talking points, and this is a much shorter document. looks like this, and it just kind of hits the highlights, but it's kind of a way, it shows you how to talk to the client about emerald ash borer questions. And you can see there, as of June 18th, 2020, EAB has been confirmed actually in Arvada. So it was confirmed before in Boulder, Broomfield, Larimer, and Adams County, and it has now been confirmed in Jefferson County in Arvada. Is all of Arvada in Jefferson County? I'm not sure.
I think so.
Yeah. So it also has, to refer to the Department of Ag, but we also have the resources available in Teams as well. And just things to kind of help you to answer those questions with clients. Help them think about a plan. They're going to need a plan on how to handle it if and when, or and it probably will get to Arapahoe County. We're all going to have to start thinking about that. And what are the things that clients should consider? Do you have a healthy tree already? Is this a small tree? Did you just plant it maybe 10 years ago or 5 years ago, before all of this was really big? Do you have a big tree like I do in my backyard? That's a beautiful tree, and it's 30 years old, and very healthy tree. what are the actions that I'm going to have to take to keep that tree healthy, as well as perhaps treat that tree if it gets close to us. The recommendations still are to wait until emerald ash borer is confirmed in your county or nearer to where you live before treating. And this does get a little tricky when companies are out there selling ash borer, emerald ash borer sprays or soil drenches or whatever it may be. So it gets a little tricky, and we can just pretty much just simply say the information that is at our disposal at this point in time recommends that no treatment be done until it is confirmed in our county. So and you know, don't say, oh, you're wasting your money. Don't say any of those things. As you well know, we need to be tactful. We want to work with the green industry and maintain a good relationship with them. So we just give the information that is available to us. The client can make their own decisions about what they want to do now and in the future. If they're going to remove the tree, now is the time to start thinking about a replacement tree. That's where some of the other information we have, that recommended list for front range trees is a really good source. Also, our fact sheets on large deciduous trees, small deciduous trees and shrubs, evergreens. So all of that information would be available for the client to use in making a decision as well. And if they want to treat the tree, then they should give them options and or help them to know how to make their tree even more healthy than it is, to keep watering it, to do the things that need to be done, winter watering and all of that. So let's keep the tree as healthy as it can, because a stress tree, as we well know, it's going to attract more pests. Could just be the lilac ash borer, but it's going to attract more pests. So let's help the client to know how to take care and make sure that their trees are healthy. And this print's kind of small for me, but top priority in keeping the tree healthy, provide tree care and watering information, right? So I covered that. The decision of when comes down, of when to treat comes down to their peace of mind of the client. Would they feel better if they treated it now? That's their choice. If they waited and would get the tree treated later, that's their choice. So just kind of keep those things in mind when you're answering questions about emerald ash borer. We provide the options, we provide the information. We don't tell them when to treat, or well, we can tell them when to treat, but not if they should treat or not. These are the options that you have. And yes, I will treat my tree because this is a tree that's very valuable in my landscape. So those decisions we've already made. And when the time comes, then we will line up treatments. Now, the treatments, there is a fact sheet on the treatments for emerald ash borer, or the insecticides that are good for emerald ash borer. Let me see if we may need to go into VMS to find that.
I think it was listed on the resources also.
Yeah, was it okay, listed on the resources as well. Okay, good. I thought I had written down lilac ash borer. Okay. I do want to go into plant talk as well. I think I sent you those links as well. So it's if we go to the fact sheets, oops, logging in. Okay.
Tell me where.
Okay, go to online garden publications, sorry, and go
That's okay.
to fact sheets.
Oh, all right, excuse me.
Sorry, no, my fault.
That's
I didn't
fine.
make that clear. Fact sheets. And then we go down to, when it comes to it, to trees and shrubs. We could probably get there the other way too, but so we go to trees and shrubs, and we'll go to insects, or is it, yeah, trees and shrubs, and then there should be, oh shoot, did I get to that from the other way?
Might have gotten it to it from the other way.
I may have. I
Mhm.
have, let's see, trees and shrubs. Yeah. There's a fact sheet on, oops. Yeah. Let's go back. We can go back and go through the other way. Sorry.
That's fine. Are you looking for the fact sheet on?
Insecticides used to control emerald ash borer on residential street or shade trees. And I thought I didn't, hang on, I've got it here somewhere. I like ash borer plant talk. Is it 5.626? So control the emerald ash borer. Where did I find that?
If you can find the resources that's on the
Yeah, it may be
Teams
maybe
page,
on
it's the very
there.
first one.
Debbie, I'm going to put the link to it in the chat box. This is
Okay,
the
thank
direct
you.
link to
Thank
it.
you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Anyway, this is a good source that has just the insecticides that are used for emerald ash borer, and you could talk to clients about the differences between injections, soil drenches, or soil inoculation, and also trunk sprays. So that seems to be pretty much the
Is it in this
uses that
one?
are used.
That's that one, Lucinda.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's the first one, yeah.
There it is. That's where I found it. Sorry, I didn't
No
write that
worries.
down. My fault. So this fact sheet will
It's
show
thinking.
you and give you the names of the pesticides that are used. And it also has great pictures as well. So we'll just kind of keep going down through this. There we go. Insecticides that are used and how they're used. Imidacloprid. And remember that with imidacloprid, it is a neonicotinoid. I can never say that word, but anyway. And so it also, this may depend on timing because it is used in the soil. Timing for pollinators and plants that are in bloom, because other plants will pick this up through their roots as well as the tree. It is a systemic. So the timing of this may be more critical than the timing of the say the trunk sprays or even the injections. But something to keep in mind regarding this. See, it cannot be made if flowering plants are present around the base of the tree. And at one point, I think they've done some more research, but at one point they thought maybe it would be picked up at a distance of, say, let's 10 to 15 feet from the tree. But there may have been more research done on this. So when the timing of using the soil drench is extremely important. And then I think if we just continue to go down, it shows you how the soil drenches are done and what is used and some other alternatives there. So it's a good resource for specific things. And you may get clients who have gotten quotes from companies and they're asking about the specific pesticide that may have been recommended in our fact sheets. So good source of information there. Now, if we could go to Plant Talk.
Let's go back here.
Yeah, I think it's easier to use the CMG one for that.
Yeah.
Just because it's easier to get to the Plant Talks than through the extension website. So one reason why we were showing you to go through this way is because this one is a little bit more user friendly than the extension CSU website. This one's a little bit more friendlier to us master gardeners and is easier to find things through this one. So if we go to Plant Talk, and we'll want 1425. It's there's a search. I think there's a search box someplace down a ways there. There we go, 1425. And you'll get something that looks similar to this. And if we scroll down, because this is available in Spanish as well. So we have ash borers. So if we look at that ash borers, this is a good one because it has emerald ash borer as well as lilac ash borer, and it mentions both and talks about both. So this is a good, short, concise bit of information that you can send. And if you go down to closer to the end, you'll see there are fact sheets that are available, shade tree borers and other fact sheets that would be relevant to someone who is looking at this. Now, if you'll go back to the Plant Talk main menu there, yesterday I was doing some scrounging around in Plant Talk and I found a new one that you can put into the site that is 1499C, small c. And I don't know if this one is brand new or what, but this one is on emerald ash borer. It has some good pictures on it as well, and information about emerald ash borer. So there you go. This is a good one as well. And I particularly like that with the penny because you can see how really small this insect is. You know, we tend to think about them as being big, but they're really quite small. Yeah. So if we go down to the end of this resource, then you're also going to have some fact sheets available to you. So there you go. I think those are really good plant talks that you can use, a bit smaller in scope than the fact sheets. As Jeff said, they're more general, but very good for helping the client. Okay, so again, we've had no confirmed cases in Arapahoe County, so no action is recommended at this time. And then you can just use those talking points to help the client make a decision. Anything else you want to add, Jeff?
No, it looks great.
Okay. So I think Lisa will be up next.
Japanese beetles. This is going to be another topic where you get a lot of questions on. So right off the bat, know where to find that fact sheet. And I can post the link right now in the chat box. And actually, Lucinda, maybe, do we have time to pull up the fact sheet?
Absolutely.
Okay,
If you want me to scoot out of this and we'll go.
Sure, for a minute.
right.
Yeah. And I'll put it in the chat box. So Japanese beetle you know, it's a big deal in Arapahoe County, where we're kind of ground zero here in Colorado for Japanese beetle infestations, and it's a very complex insect because, you know, with something like emerald ash borer, you know, it's the whole life cycle that does damage. But with Japanese beetles, they affect different plants at different parts of their life cycle. So we have the grubs that affect the turf grass, and then we have the adults that affect the vegetation and the plants in our yards. So this kind of comes back to the importance of, you know, when you're talking to clients, helping them understand the life cycle is critical to Japanese beetles. So, and no matter what the question, I definitely recommend sending them this fact sheet, because this is a good resource that really goes over the everything you need to know. You know, how to identify it, the issues with the turf grass, and then the issues with the plants feeding on our, or the beetles feeding on our landscape plants. And even more so, go ahead and keep scrolling, Lucinda. There's 2 tables in this fact sheet that are going to be critical to share with clients, because you're going to get a lot of questions on what and when can I spray on my lawn to get rid of the grubs, or what can I spray on my plant to kill the Japanese beetles. And so the 2 tables in this, the first one is insecticide options to control the adult beetles. And so let's talk about that first. So when you're talking about Japanese beetles, the adults feeding on the vegetation, the big issue that we have, and please tell the clients this, is the label is the law. They have to follow the directions explicitly. But also, it is illegal to spray a lot of these products on flowers because they attract bees and other beneficial insects. So they really need to be cognizant, you know, depending on what, you know, the plants and everything, they need to be cognizant of that. Now there are some, also another consideration, if they have beetles feeding on some of their vegetable gardens, they need to be cognizant of products that are safe to apply to their vegetables so that they might consume them later. So things like that, you know, are good reminders. But this table walks clients through all the pros and cons to both, and it addresses the pollinator hazard. So the one product that continues to come up, scroll down just a little bit, right there. Yeah. So, you know, we don't make product recommendations. However, time and time again, this is coming up, Bacillus thuringiensis, the variety Galleria, and I don't know if I'm saying that quite right. It's marketed as Beetle Gone and Beetle Juice. This is one product that is reasonably priced, that is very safe for pollinators, and it's safe for use on food crops. So you can, you know, acknowledge this is a good product. Most of the time they're going to have to buy it online. Dark garden stores are slowly starting to carry it, so I don't know what that'll look like this summer. So you might point that out. But with any product, you know, a lot of these products are short-lived. They degrade in the sun, and so like the Beetle Gone or Beetle Juice is going to have to be reapplied every 2 to 3 days. And so helping them think through, like, okay, I know you want to kill the beetles on your plants, but is it worth the, you know, think about the cost of the product and how often you'll have to apply it to really get control. Think about the safety considerations. I would still, you know, if they're asking you specifically about Japanese beetle products, I would still give them the information. You know, hand picking, as tedious as it is, it's effective because they do something called aggregation feeding, which means when one beetle starts feeding on your plants, the plant emits a chemical signal saying, I'm stressed out. And that chemical scent attracts other beetles. And so the more you can handpick the beetles off your plants, the less pheromones going to be released, and you know, the less they'll be attracted to your plants. I know, you know, and you'll get clients that are very frustrated that, you know, they just can't win. So talk them through all of those, all the options that are available. Now, in terms of the turf grass, so go ahead and scroll down. That is the best, this table 3. So this is specifically for products to apply on your lawn. So again, you're gonna have some of the same considerations. You know, if there's flowers in the lawn, whether it's dandelions or clover flowers, they really, you know, they have to follow the label. And if it's high hazard to bees, they are not able to apply the product. Now they could mow their lawn and they'll be just fine. So get them to think about some of those things. Again, this table walks them through all the options. The same Bacillus thuringiensis, marketed as beetle, I think it's beetle gone for the grub version. Grub gone, my bad. Again, comes up as it's a very popular option. And then the other popular option that comes up are parasitic nematodes, which are available at the garden stores. And then at the very bottom, scroll down a little bit more, milky spore. So milky spore is found at all the stores, but research has shown that it is not effective. In fact, it has a very low kill rate in the grubs. Pretty much all the other products have higher kill rates. So while we can't recommend specific products, you can, in this instance, say, you know, research has shown milky spore is not that effective. You're better off with one of these other products. So that kind of covers the insecticide issue. Lucinda, let's go back to the PowerPoint real quick. The other thing that's important is, you know, a lot of times, so let's talk about the turf grass specifically. You're going to get the question, when should I apply this product? And I, you know, of course, answer their question, but this is where you can maybe ask some other questions about their lawn. So for instance, grubs will, if they're chewing on the lawn, they create brown spots in the lawn. Well, so does drought, irrigation gaps, or, you know, sprinkler gaps. A lot of other issues create brown spots in the lawn. So this is where, you know, ask your client more questions. Like, are you sure that there are grubs in your lawn? Because really, if you don't have grubs, there's no point in spending time and money applying something for no reason. Most of the time, homeowners do not have grubs in their lawn. They see the adults feeding on their roses or their Virginia creeper, so they assume they're nesting in the lawn. But in all reality, homeowners don't, most of the time, they don't keep their lawn wet enough for the grubs to survive, because those grubs need constantly moist soil to survive. So this is where you can ask them those diagnostic questions that we talked about. You know, tell me about your watering schedule. What else are you applying on the lawn? Did you water over the winter? You know, those are all really good questions, and try to get at, you know, do they really have grubs or not? And then you could diagnose, you know, what's really going on with their lawn. So this is going to come up time and time again. The other thing to think about is the seasons. You know, damage occurs at different seasons. So for instance, right now, June, so those grubs have been overwintering deep underground and they're just starting to come back up to the surface. So Japanese beetle grub damage, it is possible that this time of year, you know, and into like May and June, it is possible there could be some damage, but it's not very often. Most of the time the damage occurs like in August and September. So if they think they have grubs this time of year, you know, maybe not. They can certainly look. A lot of times if there's heavy grub damage, you can do a tug test. So they can certainly try and pull on the brown patches of their lawn. And if the sod kind of comes right up, you know, they may have grubs. But if the grass is really rooted into the ground, they might not have grubs or have a very low number of grubs in their lawn. So a lot of questions you can ask about this. The other thing, so there's two other points I want to make that are kind of touchy when you're working with clients. So just be aware. Japanese beetle is sometimes a high emotion issue in the landscape. The use of traps. So there are traps readily available at a lot of places, and research. So traps originally were developed uh, to know if there's a presence of the insect in an area. So you put out a trap and you collect some individuals, you know they're present in that area. They were really never developed to be a control mechanism because they don't really control the insect. And that's a hard message to convey to clients, because when you set out a trap, they're attracting, thousands and thousands and thousands of beetles. So it looks like it's making an impact. But the populations of Japanese beetles are so high in our urban areas, especially in Arapahoe, that it really doesn't make a dent in the population. And depending on where your trap is, you could be putting your plants more at risk, or your neighbor's plants more at risk, because they're attracted to that pheromone smell. So they're going to come, they can travel up to 5 miles. So they're going to come to that area to find that trap. And if they find some tasty plants along the way, they will certainly stop there to feed. So the recommendation is, if you have homeowners that are insistent on placing traps out, make sure they're at least 30 feet away from any important vegetation or your neighbor's vegetation that might be attractive to the beetles. So, and you will get persistence from clients on using traps, and just give them the pros and cons of both sides, and recommend that they place them, away from their vegetation. And the other thing that becomes kind of tricky is, Japanese beetle is here to stay, and it's going to be a constant issue if we have plenty of food and habitat for them. And so when we think about planting new things in our landscapes, we really should think about, planting plants that are beetle resistant. So I'm not saying don't plant roses or anything, but what you can recommend to clients is do some research on different varieties. So with roses specifically and crabapple trees, there are a lot of varieties out there that are not attractive to beetles. So if they really want to plant a rose, Dr. Cranshaw actually has some great research with different varieties of roses that are beetle resistant. And that research was actually conducted at the Littleton War Memorial Rose Garden, not too far from us. So that research is available. The one thing we have going for us is Japanese beetle has been on the East Coast for a long, long time. And so there's been quite a bit of research on plants that are beetle resistant and not resistant. So keep that in mind. And yeah, we're, as long as we plant food for the beetles, they are going to come. So the best resources for you is to keep that fact sheet handy and read over it too, because it's very comprehensive, and it'll answer a lot of your questions. The other place that's really good for Japanese beetle resources is Dr. Cranshaw's insect page. And I know a lot of you have that. So maybe Lucinda, could we go to Dr. Cranshaw's insect page? And I've got that pulled up too, if it's helpful for me to share my screen. Okay, well, we'll hold off on that for the moment. I'm gonna place that link. Oh, there she is. Okay. I'm gonna place the link in the chat box so you all have it. And yeah, so there's a question in the chat box. If a client insists on using a Japanese beetle trap, shouldn't they use another strategy with it? Yeah, so hand picking is a great option. It's tedious, but it's effective. Other options are placing products or applying products to the actual plants. Those are going to be your best bet. Okay, so here's Dr. Cranshaw's insect information page. Lucinda, if you could scroll up a little bit.
Yeah, and we did add this, I think, to the EAB talking points, so we can add it to the JB talking points as well. I'll add that in
Okay.
VMS and Teams.
Okay, so click on Japanese beetle resources. So here, scroll down just a little bit. Perfect. Okay, so here's a lot of great resources. The things that I use most often are this Q&A document about Japanese beetles. So that Dr. Crenshaw started compiling all the questions he was getting into one document. So feel free to reference this. When I am looking for something specific, I usually search the document for a keyword. So for instance, when do you apply grub gone? You can search the document for grub gone and it'll take you right to that answer. So this is gonna be more supplemental information for you, but you are welcome to share it with a client as well.
Mhm.
And then another good resource, go back one. Okay, is I think it's this first one. Try clicking on the first one. There's a list of plants that, and scroll through. I might have to find the page numbers for this. But there's a list of plants that are attractive or not attractive to Japanese beetles. So if you have a specific plant, so like if a client is wondering if dahlias are attracted to beetles, you can search this document for dahlias and see if there's anything specific on it. And this is also a great paper that talks about, traps and their effectiveness and all that kind of good stuff. So more information than you probably wanted to know, but it's there if you want to do a little bit more research. Yeah, maybe I'll have to find that list. I'll send out that list to you all.
We could
Okay,
just
it's
come
not
to
that
my
paper.
yard and I have all of them, I think.
The last great resource. So bookmark Dr. Cranshaw's page for good resources. Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. It's this one right here, relative susceptibility of landscape plants. Okay. Scroll down a little bit. So here it is. So you'll have to search the plants by plant family and then scientific name, or you can use the search function and search specifically for like holly. And it'll tell you if it's resistant or how attractive it is to Japanese beetles. So this is a good resource when you get those very specific questions about a certain plant. And then the last resource, Dr. Cranshaw did a, and it just keeps going. This is, it's a really good list.
We'll add this one too, to the JB talking points. How about that?
Sounds good. Yeah, and then the last resource is Dr. Cranshaw did a webinar that was recorded specifically on Japanese beetles. So you can watch that and that, you'll get it straight from the source, everything you wanted to know. That is posted on the cohorts blog page under spring gardening webinars. The spring gardening webinars page lists all the classes that are upcoming that you can sign up for. But if you keep scrolling, it's got a long list of classes that were recorded and posted. So feel free to, I think Lucinda, click on garden webinars. Yeah, so there's the upcoming classes. And then here's the start of the recorded classes. And so Japanese beetle is listed somewhere on there. Oh, there it is, Japanese beetle. So a great resource too, to increase your knowledge. This is also public. So if you have someone that's really interested in all the options that are available, feel free to send them this link too. Okay, so what questions do you have on Japanese beetles? I didn't cover the topic thoroughly because we don't have a lot of time, but there are resources available that to help you learn the information to be able to answer the questions. If you get some really tough ones, or if you get a client that's upset or anything like that, please refer them to me or Lucinda or Martha. You know, staff will tackle the really tough questions. And I'll add one more side note. So I get the question a lot, will planting geraniums help control Japanese beetles? Because when Japanese beetles feed on, I believe it's the flower petals, it's actually toxic to them. So in lab settings, they were able to recover from the toxicity, but in the wild, they were not able to recover. So it killed the beetles that ate the petals. And so that word has gotten around about that. So can Japanese beetles control, or geraniums control Japanese beetles? The short answer is no. And that's because, while yes, the petals are toxic to them, we have so many other options for the beetles to feed on that they're probably gonna go for the other food sources first, the ones they know are tasty and the ones that they know, that aren't toxic to them. So planting geraniums is certainly not going to hurt anything, and people are welcome to try, but it's not really necessarily a control method, just because populations are so high and we have so many other things for them to feed on. Okay, any other questions? I'm looking at the chat box. I don't think. Oh, any predictions of Japanese beetle and other insects will be early or late this year? I don't have any good predictions on that. Yeah, so short answer is I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. If I hear anything though, we can certainly pass along that information. I don't know, Jeff or Debbie, have you heard any insect predictions? Yeah.
No, I haven't. I haven't noticed. I think they were a little earlier last year. They started to appear a little earlier, at least in my yard. Of course, it's like smorgasbord here. But no, I haven't heard anything. I don't know about Jeff.
No, I haven't heard anything either.
Okay, Lucinda, it's 10 after 3. Do you want us to shorten up what we have left? Or how do you want to handle this?
Yeah, we can continue to go on. We can
Okay.
continue to record, and then
Okay.
it'll be available. So yeah, I think it's a good idea if you all have time to do that.
All right.
Sure.
Yeah, it works.
Okay.
So, okay. That was great information actually about Japanese beetle. I it's always good to review those things, and I learned some things as well. So very good. So one of the things that we wanted to do today is to go over the diagnostic process documents that are available to you, and to preview some of the sessions that we're going to do this summer, and we'll get to those dates later in the presentation. But and as Lucinda said, and as we said earlier, this is a diagnostics is big for at the state level, and at the local level. This is the second year that we have done specific sessions about diagnostics, and we want all the master gardeners that are interested in and want to do these things to feel more comfortable in attempting to diagnose either samples that, if we're back in the office, samples that come in, or emails with pictures and that sort of thing. So we really want to make it more user-friendly, let's say, so that you would feel more comfortable in trying to diagnose things that come in. And the document that Jeff and I and Lucinda created last year is called the Diagnostic Process. Now, this is found on Teams. It's also found on VMS, so it's readily available for you. And I'll go kind of quickly through this. We were going to go in more detail, but I'll go kind of quickly.
Do you
through
want me to
this.
pull
And
up the actual sheet?
you can, yeah, that would be
Okay.
great.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's
I'll
fine.
just kind of keep talking. So this you can use very easily. Just I have it printed out. I keep it close by, or you can bookmark it or put it on your desktop. Whatever works for you. So this document, as I said, is in Teams as well as in VMS under the Docs category. And before, a few notes before beginning. Jeff, did you want to talk about the notes?
Yeah, let me go through that briefly. So
Okay.
these are just things to keep in mind when you're going through the steps of the diagnostic process. So note number 1 is abiotic versus biotic. Remember, abiotic means non-living, biotic means living, okay? Note number 2, abiotic factors influence biotic factors. For example, any kind of drought is going to add stress to the tree and weaken the tree's ability to fight off pests. So keep those things in mind. The classic example is the mountain pine beetle, and that hit our mountains because of warmer than normal winter temperatures, and because of drought, the trees were unable to create enough sap to fight off the mountain pine beetles, which led to devastating effects on the lodgepole pines. So just remember, abiotic does affect biotic quite often, okay? Note number 3, this is really important. You must always rule out an abiotic cause before diagnosing something as biotic. So hopefully you remember the difference between a sign and a symptom. A symptom is a reaction. A sign is a presence of or some sort of presence left behind by a pest or disease. So you need to try to find those signs before you diagnose something as biotic. Note number 4, this is a really important one, and it's about being thorough and being patient. It's not uncommon to take between 30 minutes and an hour to diagnose a problem. You just have to rule things out. Make a list, you create a list. These are the possibilities. It's not this possibility, it's not this one, it's not this one, it's not this one. So it's either this one or that one. So you just need to be really thorough and be very patient. And finally, sometimes there are multiple diagnoses. Try to figure out the overriding problem. And sometimes it's an abiotic issue that's overriding all the problems that the plant is having. Okay, so just keep those things in mind.
Okay,
Okay,
so
Debbie.
yeah, thank you. So we'll go through the diagnostic process, and if you were able to take the webinar earlier from the diagnostic tool kit from that was done on the state level, you will remember these are very, very similar in wording and all that Mari did. And I'm sorry, I can't remember her last name, but that Mari did in that presentation she did on the introduction to the diagnostic process. So we'll kind of go through these a little bit quickly so we can get to the good stuff. Usually we're talking about a tree, a shrub, or a plant. Now that could be an annual, a biennial, a perennial, a vegetable, any kind of plant that could be in the landscape. This is what you would be talking about. And many pests and diseases are species specific. So we have like lilac ash borer or emerald ash borer or, fusarium wilt in tomatoes or something. It's pretty, although there are other kinds of fusariums, it might be the one that attacks tomatoes. So sometimes they're that way, not always. And also keep in mind, what's the normal appearance? Let's say someone sends a picture of a plant and you just see the affected part. So what does the normal plant look like? That's very important to note. So then you'll collect background information on the whatever the thing you're trying to look at, and we have color-coded worksheets. Now, these are available on Teams, they are available on VMS, and we have one for plant, we have one for turf or lawns, and we have one on insects. So these three have a set of, and I don't know, Lucinda, if you want to pull one of those up, but they have specific questions that you can ask the client. So let's say, for instance, on the lawn one, does the client know, we'll wait for it to, does the client know, let's see, is that the lawn? Okay, let's use lawn since that's the first one that came up there. So on the lawn history then, and you can see it's lawn worksheet. So is the lawn new? Is it established? How old is it? So these are suggestions for questions that you can ask the client and get information from them. And it talks about identifying the problem. Where is it? What's the, is there slope? Is there, how much damage is there? When did the problem occur, etc. So it's kind of like a little cheat sheet for you to use when you are asking questions. And then lawn management information about sprinkler systems. Do they have a sprinkler system? How often does it run? How often do you use it? Is the lawn fertilized, et cetera, et cetera? And then a very interesting question at the bottom is, what do you think the problem is? What does the client think it is? And sometimes it's kind of interesting to see what their answer is. And a lot of times you'll hear, I don't know what it is, I just want it fixed. And that's quite possible. That's why they're coming to us, to see if we can help them fix that issue. And on the backside, there's actually a backside, which I don't think we can show here, but it has a diagram. Oh, there we go. Oh, good. Sorry. It has a diagram there where if the client brings in a sample, they can do that, or maybe they can send you pictures. And remember that that email address is mastergardener@arapahogov.com, and they can email us questions or email us pictures of the area that is affected. Also, we want to have some good green grass and maybe some interface between what's maybe brown or not looking like they want. So if we can get pictures of both and all of that, that really helps in getting the information. And there are similar questions regarding plants and different things that you can ask those questions of the client to help you, or if we're in the office, to help any of the diagnosticians to answer and diagnose the problem, so that we don't have to call them up and ask them all of these questions. So remember, these are available on Teams as well as on VMS. Okay, so we want to get as much information as we can from the client regarding their issue, and hopefully maybe even get some pictures that will help. And if you're doing an email shift and you just, someone just sends in, I'm having trouble with my tomato, this is what it, and they describe what it is, you can always ask them to send you a picture as well. And that will be available then for whoever is, if your shift is finished, maybe the next day's master gardener who can answer that. So get as much information as possible. Keep past and present weather events in mind. Particularly this time of year, we'll be getting a lot of questions about trees and evergreens and that kind of thing, or lawns. And remember the late frosts we had and the funky weather we had in October of last year, just when the trees were shutting down. So we may see some effects of that, those weather events. So keep that in mind as well. And again, we ask, what does the client think it is? So step 3, if we could go back to the diagnostic process. Step 3 would be to examine, if we're in the office and they bring in a sample, to examine that. If not, to look at the pictures that have been provided, and hopefully, let's say if it's a tree or a shrub, they can send us some close-ups of leaves or the twigs or branches that are affected, some close-up pictures, so we can take a better look at that. And so we'll look at the tree, shrub, or plant. What is the overall health? And sometimes it's helpful to have a picture of the whole tree if they can get that in their yard, if they can step back and take a picture, so we can see what the overall health is. If there's dead at the top and they're only worried about the dead at the bottom, maybe there's some other factors that are in play here. So an overall picture is a good thing. Examine the leaves. Is there a pattern? If you remember from plant pathology, or even if you've taken the diagnostic toolkit classes, is there a pattern to the damage? Because certain kinds of diseases, fungi, have a very distinctive pattern to the destruction that they're doing. Look for evidence of fungus. Are there spores under the leaves? Are there spores on the trunk of the tree? Are there spores on the stems of the plant? So look for those things. And also, you can ask the client to look for presence of insects, or maybe you can see this on it from a picture, either presence of insects and or feeding damage, such as chewing, leaf rolling, leaf malformations, flecking marks, galls, skeletonizing. So look for frass. Frass, remember, is insect poop. So look for that, or shed skins. You can oftentimes see shed skins from aphids. And then if it's a tree or a shrub, you want to be looking at the stems in the trunk to see if there's any telltale signs of issues there. And with trees and trunks, you can look at the growth increments on branches. So a lot of this information, if it's sort of in the back of your mind and you can't really bring it forward, it will be in the garden notes. There's a lot of good pictures and drawings in the garden notes that will help refresh your memory on growth increments on branches, or what a canker looks like. Sometimes there's mechanical damage at the bottom of the tree. That's, happens a lot with weed whackers, and sometimes with companies that are doing that, or maybe you have the neighborhood kid doing your lawn or you're around your trees, and they happen to hit it with the weed whackers. So look for holes, swelling, sap flow, torn bark, trunk gouges, splitting, galls, distortion of the tree, shrub, or plant stems. These can all be evidence of something that's going on with it that you can identify. And then look at, if possible, look at the roots, particularly if this is a vegetable plant, or say a plant in the landscape or perennial, and it's obviously, not doing well or whatever, and they're willing to pull it up. You can look at those roots, or you can kind of dig down around the tree, have the client dig down around the tree, so you can see if those are girdling roots. Are they looking healthy? And then you start to do the research, and that's where the documents and the places where you can find the documents that we've outlined today will be available to you. So you can start with a broad search and start narrowing it down. In the office, there are resources with the books, but remember if you're going to do a search online, to remember to do the site.edu, so that you get research-based information from other universities if CSU doesn't seem to have the information that you might need. And there are great places that you can get some general information. Cornell is one, Iowa State, UC Davis, Kansas State. I used Utah State one day to find something that, while may not be perfectly for Colorado soils and that kind of thing, would give you general information on the problem. So start doing your research. And we are going through this quickly, but if you come to our sessions, we'll go through it in more detail. But Where is the plant located in the landscape? This can oftentimes give you a good idea of what's going on there, whether it's within the sprinkler system or are they hand watering it, those kinds of things. If you have access to the books, Insects and Diseases of Woody Plants in Colorado is an excellent one. Weeds of the West, Flora of Colorado. There are many of these resources, as well as the fact sheets and all the information that's available online. And on right down there at F, it says use online resources like CSU fact sheets, garden notes, plant talks, other resources from educational institutions. And it can show you, it says to use site:/.edu at the end of your search words, and that will send you there. And then you start to look and describe for yourself the signs and symptoms that you have observed in the pictures that have been sent, or in the actual sample that you have in front of you, and what you think those problems might suggest. What do the signs and symptoms suggest? And then list what you have already ruled out and why you ruled out them. And that's what Jeff was talking about in the beginning. Sometimes we say, oh, it's got to be this, and then no, that's not quite right. So what are the other things that it could be? And as you rule out things, you need to have kind of a reason to be ruling them out. No, the exit hole isn't right, or no, that the kind of damage is not present that this pest or disease would exhibit. So rule out those things, and then what is your conclusion? Is it definitive, or are there multiple possibilities, which is entirely possible? You could have a stressed tree that had a lot of winter damage, and then here comes spring or whatever, and now it has aphids or other insect issues, or perhaps a disease issue. So, you know, the overriding thing is the drought conditions, but these other things are a result of that. And can severely affect the health of tree or plant, shrub, whatever it happens to be. So then you start to whittle down your recommendations using all of the resources. Is the problem significant to the health of the plant? We were talking about emerald ash borer and lilac ash borer. Lilac ash borer seldom kills the plant. Can affect the health, but doesn't kill it. Emerald ash borer does kill it. So lilac ash borer may just be an issue, and if they improve the health of their shrub or tree, that will go away. So be sure and look at all of those. And then, is it unsolvable? So let's say emerald ash borer has entered your tree. It can expel some, but if the tree isn't healthy, if it's already stressed and the insect damage is too great, then no, it's not solvable. And so you would help the client to realize that this is not a solvable thing that can be fixed. And then be sure to incorporate IPM practices, that integrated pest management. So we offer cultural and mechanical and or pesticide information and options for the client, whatever the fact sheets and the information that you have gathered states are the cultural or mechanical or pesticide recommendations. You should provide the client with that information so they can make an informed choice. And then when contacting the client, if you remember if you saw the presentation by Dr. Tamala Blunt, she says, could be, possibly, the signs show, or it appears your tree has this, that, or the other thing, or from the evidence I see, it is more than one possibility, or the evidence is not conclusive, but it seems the problem is, and it sounds kind of wishy-washy, but it's not really, because seldom is it just black and white. It does happen. There are some black and white issues, but oftentimes it's an issue that has many factors to it. So you want to be careful in your wording. and kind of use some of the words or phrases that we've provided here for you. So that was really quick. That was really quick. But just to give you an idea, and you can certainly look at this document, read it very carefully over yourself. This was just really quick overview. So in time here, we're running out of time. So look at it. And then if you have any questions, you could contact Lucinda or Lisa or Jeff or myself. And we'd be glad to go through parts of this or all of this with you again. I just volunteered you, Jeff.
That's fine.
So now the lawn worksheets and all of that, remember that is available on VMS and Teams. So take a look at those as well. And they will really help you when you are talking to clients, particularly if you're talking to them on the phone. Okay, so now I think, Lucinda, we are ready to, if you guys can stay, we do have a really interesting diagnostic practice here. And you want to give them a little background on this, Lisa? Or Lucinda, I'm sorry. Oh, maybe she's probably busy. Okay, so
No, I was muted. Sorry.
oh, sorry.
That's okay. This was a client who called in and asked for a lawn check and said, I've got all these problems in my lawn. Can you come out and visit? And so this is a snapshot of the pictures that they sent. And I don't know, Debbie and Jeff, if you want me to pull up the actual pictures or you want to
Yes.
work from this.
Yes, if you could, because I think that would be good. We can really see much better in the bigger
Okay.
pictures. Yeah.
All right, give me a minute to find those.
Feel free to stand up, everyone, while you're doing this.
Yeah, get a stretch a little bit.
For those of you still with us.
Yeah. Actually, there are a lot of people that are hanging in there, bless your hearts.
Let me see, they should be here.
So the first thing that we need to do on the diagnostic steps is to identify the plant. So it's turf. And since it's greening up now, it's a cold season grass, so that eliminates things like buffalo grass. But then we have some other things going on here. It looks like we have maybe some bluegrass and then some other things, this kind of yellowish green one, and then this wide blade one. Sometimes on photos, you can figure out a grass. This one in particular, we were looking at, I don't know if we can see that one little blade. Trying to find a blade in a lawn.
Let's see if I can find the one we looked at before.
Is this reminiscent of we the other day talked about the possibility or impossibility of getting a photo to yes,
ID plant.
Thank you for reading my mind.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go.
That's tricky. Okay, so
yeah.
if you could kind of circle that one blade right there. It's kind of in the middle. There's a little restriction in it.
Lucinda, did you say what time of year this was?
This
Just
photo
now.
literally just came in,
Hot off the presses?
hot
Yeah.
off the presses.
Okay.
So if you happen to know much about grasses, there's one particular grass that has a very distinctive blade.
Just where you had your circle, just to the right there, right in the
Right
middle
in
of
the
the screen
middle.
now.
So you can
The
see
one
there's a
that's pinched.
restriction.
Oh,
and
this one.
Yeah.
This one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So does anybody recognize that? Can you name that grass?
Is it smooth brome?
Yes, it is.
Very good.
And I had to look that up. But, you know, if you have, this is a really good resource. Maybe Dr. Koski talked about this. It's called Identifying Turf and Weedy Grasses. It's a little booklet. We have one in the office. It's not very expensive. If you like to have things like this, it's a really great resource. And it does have a photo of, tells you how to key out plants, and there's a photo of smooth brome. So identifying the plant, we've got some bluegrass, we've got some smooth brome, we've got this yellowish green thing.
Here, and we've got bluegrass here.
Can you
Mhm.
repeat the name of the little book? And is this the little book that you said Tony calls the little book?
Probably.
Probably.
Okay,
And we have that for sale in the office.
what's it called?
Identifying turf and weedy grasses.
Perfect.
It's also in the resource library at the office. And we keep it along in our lawn and landscape check boxes too. So when you go out on a call, if you go out on a call with staff, that'll be available, because that oftentimes is the first thing we need to do is identify the plant. And many lawns look like this. They've been started one way and they've possibly been overseeded, and so you'll have a mixture of grasses and you have to identify the grass.
And grasses are particularly tricky. There are a lot of different kinds of grasses, and identifying them can be a bit tricky. It takes some practice to identify grasses, even with the book. Even with the book, because there are a lot of factors at play here, and hopefully we'll be able to do some hands-on this summer, maybe at the end of the summer, if we can be together, and we'll do some grass ID, because it is a bit tricky. So keep that thought, and we'll see if
Called
we
smooth
can't
brome.
do this. Yeah, smooth brome, which is very common in grasses,
There's the restriction right
in
there.
turf. I suppose we should think about calling it turf. Yeah, very
Yeah.
very common. And just, well, we don't have time for my side note, so go ahead.
let's try to figure out what this yellowish green grass is. So we'll Lucinda, can you get to a Google site and we'll type something in? Type in yellow green spring grass site :edu. Let's see what comes up. I actually did this yesterday. This was not a plant, believe it or not. I mean, it is right now, but does your bluegrass have the yellows?
I love that. That's a good one.
This is a plant talk. Wet spring weather. Ah, that's kind of what we're experiencing.
plus 15.
Let's just scroll down a little bit. Talks about how high precipitation affects the nutrients in the soil, and you get some iron chlorosis. Let's see if there's anything about any types of plants that show up. Melting out. Now, melting out doesn't show up this early. Ah, look at that. Doesn't that kind of look like it? There's kind of a yellowish green grass. Annual bluegrass, Poa annua. Now, if I was doing this, I would do a little bit more research to find out some more about Poa annua, because he talks about it here a little bit. But I would want to make a more educated guess that really is Poa annua. Find out some more some characteristics of it. Okay, but we're going to assume it's Poa annua to expedite this process and move on. That's a good fact sheet, though. Thank you, Lucinda.
Mhm.
Okay, so the plant is bluegrass, smooth brome, Poa annua, and probably who knows what else.
Probably some fescue in there somewhere.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Step.
And
Go ahead, Debbie.
in many big DIY stores, I'll use it that way, DIY stores, the bags of seed, grass seed, oftentimes will have Poa annua in it. So if they have overseeded, some of this may be an introduced grass through the overseeding, as well as some fescues. Not the brome, but the others. Yeah, it's better for clients to get grass seed that is more suited to Colorado, which most garden centers, biggish garden centers have formulated for Colorado.
Okay, Debbie, you want to do step 2?
Yes. So
Background information?
step 2, oops, 3, there we go. Step 2, collect background information. So this is where that lawn worksheet would come into play, and the questions that are on there regarding reseeding. Is this an established lawn? You know, what's their watering system? If we can look at maybe some of the other pictures too, that would be information that we would want. What is the exposure for this particular lawn? You know, is it a south exposure, west, east, north, combination, whatever? So you can see the bright green there. So we've also got some issues here that looks like, is this a high traffic area? Do we have dogs and kids? You can kind of see maybe a little play set kind of thing there in the top portion of the picture. So is this a high foot traffic area that might be a problem for what's their watering schedule, et cetera, et cetera. So
What about snow? The
snow,
big piles of heavy snow left those spots on my front and backyard.
yes.
We're like 2 weeks
Snow,
late getting sun to them.
yeah, yeah. I have the same issue. Some snow mold may occur. There is kind of a grayish cast to this. You know, it's a little bit hard to see that, even if we can't. Yeah, there's some grayish cast there that could be some heavy or snow mold that's in there as well. Very good for picking that up. Plus, there's just some patchy areas here on the right side of the screen. It's almost like there's a line, you know, between what's on the left side and what's on the right side.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is why it's important for people to send us pictures where we can see this, where we can see that there is a distinction. So maybe what's going on that right side. So watering, certainly, did they do any winter watering? Even though they may have had snow there may have been portion of it that did not have snow on it, that did not get some watering during the very dry times this winter. And with dogs and or children, it may just totally be overwhelmed. It's a little bit harder to tell if this would be Japanese beetle issue here. You could have the client go out and maybe pull up some of those areas, just tug on them, as Lisa suggested. Japanese beetle problems. Yeah, so there's a lot of things that are going on there. So looking at the pictures, and usually I just kind of make a list as I go. What do I see? I see that bright green grass. We know that's Poa annua. We see weedy grasses in there. We see heavy areas that are damaged, maybe from foot traffic. So that when you go to the information sources that we have, right, the fact sheets, the garden notes, when you go to those, you can be looking at maybe some specific things regarding that. Winter watering, overall lawn care. Have they fertilized this? Did they fertilize it in the fall? Did,
I'm
you
sick
know,
with Igloo. There's a kids play set and there's two like round spots and we had two super heavy snowman snows that
there you
just
go.
fell.
There you go. Yeah. So all of these issues, all of these are clues as to how to go about looking at this lawn. And if we go back, Lucinda, was there one other photo that was kind of an overall look? That one is our,
Whoops, not that. Here we go.
oh, I guess that's it. I guess there were just four. So
Those are
it's
the
this
four.
one. Yeah, it's just this one. And you can zoom in on portion of this to kind of look maybe at a little bit closer to those brown areas. Yeah. You see, part of it is trying to green up a little bit
Mhm.
there. Part of it's trying. Yeah. So, but you can ask the questions that are on the lawn worksheet and you'll get a lot of information about how to start looking at this. So what do you guys think? What are yours is kind of going through your minds? Anybody who wants to jump in there? All of the issues that certainly that Melissa has brought up. Yeah. But anything
I
else
would-
you see there?
I wish I could look at things and immediately say what it's not. Because do you guys do
Okay.
that? Oh, it's too
Yeah.
early for this or that, but I don't know any of that right off the top of my head.
Well, what is it not? Okay, so there's a green area back behind where the brown is, right? So either the sprinkler system works really well there or it doesn't get as much traffic, right? There's a chain
Yeah.
link fence there. So it's getting, it looks like there's sun on maybe on both sides. So you don't have the problem with a fence shading that area. So it seems to be that the damage is more related perhaps to where that play set is. And we don't know where the sprinkler system is, but you
See
can
how
certainly
deep
ask the client,
those dog
where,
prints,
yes, there are dog prints actually in the
but
mud.
they're deep. Like, yeah,
Yeah, there are dog prints that when you blow this up, you can see the dog prints in some of the areas that were muddy. Yeah, you can see the dog prints. Yeah. So there are multiple issues going on with this lawn.
Isn't it too early to have something like Ascochyta? You wouldn't see that this time of year.
No, you wouldn't see that this time of year. And almost everybody has Ascochyta at some point. But yeah, no, that would be too early. So if we go actually to the information on the CMG website, we did the Poe Annua. And when I did a little funky kind of thing yesterday, just doing some searches. And when I went to Grass ID and used the site edu, this fabulous PowerPoint came up. So if you could go to like Google search or whatever you use and put in Grass ID site edu or key, I can't remember exactly the words I used, but came up that there is no, go down a little bit. There should be one from CSU extension. Maybe I did grass key. Sometimes you have to play with this a little bit. Anyway, there's a really good PowerPoint by Dr. Skoski and O'Connor on identifying grass in your lawn. Well,
I just saw it.
shoot.
I just saw it on there. I saw Kotsky and O'Connor.
CS, no, that's
Turf
weed
management.
control. Do key for grass ID site. Yeah. Or key, yeah. Grass ID, site edu, or CSU. Yeah. Well, darn. Oh, useful looks no. Okay. So there's your homework, is to find this PowerPoint from Drs. O'Connor and Koski on identifying grass. And it's fabulous. And that's what it's called. It's called grass identification is the title. So I don't know if we can get to it from that. But Dr. Tony Koski and Dr. Allison O'Connor put this on there, and it's really good. I didn't write down every single step that I did. We're getting the same one.
I think I found it. It's a PDF, right?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Okay. I'm just gonna, Lucinda, I'll email it right to you right now.
Do you want to put the URL in the chat?
You know, I just
Someone
put
did.
the URL in the chat.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry
Yeah,
about that. I should have
there's
written
no
down
title in this.
exactly each
in the message.
step. It just came up and I thought, oh, this will be easy to find. So there you go. Wrong on me. But yeah, it's a really good one, and helps you to understand the different things that you need to know and look at when you're identifying grasses. Yeah. And this you could have at home if you don't have that little book. So
Thank you.
yeah. So what would you tell the client?
There it
What would
is.
you tell? There it is. Yay.
Cool.
Yeah. And if you go down, yeah, it's just a really, it's really good one, I think. Because it does talk about venation and, all of that, which all comes into play and is good, is a lot what you'll see in the keys, like Jeff had. In fact, I think this is from the keys.
Does look
Key.
like it.
Well,
to
and here's the
grass
book.
identification. Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
the book.
So it's a good way to kind of get a little bit familiarity on what a key to grass ID looks like. Yeah. So sorry. Wow.
No,
I
that's
didn't think
okay.
it
We
would be
found
that
it.
hard to find.
Well, it wasn't obvious because it's stma.org. So,
And what is, yeah, STMA. Oh, and
But,
I did see that one, STMA.
but
So,
yeah, it's interesting.
sorry about
Here are the plant parts that you identify with the grasses, the ligules and the auricles, and then you look at the hairs on there. And so it's fascinating. And if you want to geek out on something, I've totally geeked out on Turf ID. I love it.
Yeah.
But they give you, it's an excellent key and resource, and we'll add it. Shall we add this to the
Yeah, I think this would be a
VMS?
good one. I
Okay,
think this would be a good
VMS
one.
and Teams.
yeah,
Yeah.
we can. Yeah.
So I appreciate that. And I apologize for not writing down my pathway to get to it.
No
Actually,
worries.
I just Googled grass ID by Koski and O'Connor and it popped up.
Ah, there you go.
That's what
So-
I did too.
All right. You guys are all smarter than me. Yeah,
No,
so good. Okay. Yeah. So just,
I had a real hard time with this when I learned this, looking at the venation and everything.
it's difficult. It's,
Really,
yeah.
well, I have my magnifying glass out here now for something else, but yeah, that makes all the difference. And
It does. It does. Yeah. So
I did get my vaccine. I'm old enough for that, but and I wear glasses, but I felt like it all looks the same, but really with the microscope.
yeah. Yeah. You do need either a loop or, some sort of something to magnify it, because it is very difficult to see. Yeah. So anyway, back to our diagnoses. So what would you tell the client? We can kind of find those pictures, I guess, again. There we go. What do you think you would, or additional questions that you might ask the client that that might help you to diagnose what's going on here. I think this is you're going out on the site, aren't you, Lucinda?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you're all helping me do my homework. This is
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. So certainly foot traffic, since we can see the dog prints in there, foot traffic, children maybe, it's trying to green up. What would you advise the client to do? Anybody? It's fine.
I actually have a question, Debbie,
Yeah.
Jeff. And did they have something planted here before and it was removed? Because it almost looks like the shape of like the underside of a tree, almost circular in this dirt area here.
Oh, see, there
Could
you
be.
go.
It's a good
That's an
question.
interesting aspect. Well, it's possible, I suppose. I kind of, yeah, didn't.
I don't see like needles from a pine tree or, you know, a spruce.
No, see,
But-
it's really kind of an overall, it's kind of concentrated there, but still you have it carrying through in varying degrees.
Or did they have a trampoline which shaded that
Ah,
for so
that's a possibility too. Yeah, that shaded that area.
So that
Mhm.
playground doesn't look like it's really old. The playground doesn't, because it doesn't look like it's like deeply embedded into the yard. So maybe these are things that they have moved and they've put in recently. So
Yeah, yeah.
maybe altered traffic or something now.
Uh-huh. That's
And
possible too.
anytime you have a turf that's not real healthy, you get all this other stuff coming up
Mm-hmm.
opportunistically.
Yes, yes. And as we know, weeds are very opportunistic. They'll move in.
Did they say how old this lawn is?
No, not yet. We haven't gone through. She's like, I need you to come out right now. And these pictures were so great. I had to share them. And then, yes, we are going to go out. One option when you're a volunteer, folks are going to want you to come right out and do the diagnostic check, which we are happy to do. But sometimes you can, if the pictures are quite clear and you can rule out other factors, not perhaps in this one, but oftentimes you can solve the problem through the pictures with email, and you can save them the $75, which is what the fee is to do a lawn or landscape check. So it's sometimes a good idea to offer that up first and just say, hey, we can try and help you ahead of time and save you some money. I've found, though, we can send a lot of information. They still want you to come out. So that's fine too.
It'd be
Yeah,
interesting
Jeff?
what they did in the fall if they did like aeration and fertilizer, if they
Mhm.
just did nothing.
Yes, and those are questions that are all on the or the lawn worksheet, the diagnostic clinic lawn worksheet. Those are all questions that are there that you can ask the client, and all of this information can help you to come to maybe not a complete diagnosis, but certainly can help the client to recognize what's going on here. You know, it looks around the play area there. There's the grass is dying there. So this is obviously a high traffic area. And if the client were, and I think the shadow, we kind of decided the shadow was the shadow from the house. But perhaps they want to reseed, but if they're going to reseed, they're going to have to keep kids and dogs off this area, or it's you know, the seeding will not be happening. It won't, you know, it'll just probably look worse than it looks now. So
What would your options be of something that could tolerate, aside from dog tough, you know, my new found love? Potentially, what are some other options if you're gonna have that much traffic, if you can get it to take seed?
Jeff, you want to take that?
No.
I knew that was coming. Well, I
Well-
think I think if you could kind of block off this area a little bit and start, watering this area so that can see if you can green it up, give it some fertilizer, some extra love there. It may have a chance, but it's going to be difficult if you're going to have this continued traffic on there. This really is an area that needs maybe some rest. And maybe they want to look at a different kind of landscape option other than grass in here.
Yeah.
We have a fact sheet on artificial grass. That might be an option. I don't know what the client has in mind. You have to kind of ask questions to find out what the client really wants. Do they want a beautiful green lawn that's very healthy and thick? They're probably going to have to keep traffic off of this for a while.
Are
Um,
we putting turf samples in?
I'm sorry, I can't.
Are we accepting at the extension center? Are we accepting turf samples in there?
Not now.
After April 15th.
Oh, after April 15th. Ah, see, that's
Well,
brand new. And I'm sorry I jumped in there. That was wrong information.
it's by appointment only still, but we are
Uh-huh.
we will take them. So, yeah, I think, and I don't know if Dr. Koski went over this in green school. I think there's a fact sheet or a garden note that talks about different species and the traffic tolerance.
Mhm.
So, we may not want to go search for that right now, but if you go through the fact sheets, I think there's a species selection. And I think it's organized kind of with different attributes, like, a fine fescue for shade and, higher traffic plants that can handle higher traffic.
Yeah.
The drawback, for example, to buffalo grass is it's not a high traffic plant per se. It's not comfortable underfoot. KBG actually is a good high traffic grass, which is why you see it in a lot of places. But you're right to suggest other options. I mean, if her kids are 3, 4, and 5, and she's going to be in this house a long time, for example, maybe they want to consider enclosing the play set in bark mulch or in, pea gravel or something like that. Because I think a lot of this is probably wear. And it just didn't occur to them that would happen over the winter. That the grass would actually die. My guess is they didn't winter water. My guess is go ahead.
No, sorry, I interrupted.
Oh, no worries. I mean, there are an awful lot of behavioral considerations, I think, for how this lawn is used. And so that's what you need to kind of gently probe with them is, well, how do you really use this space? And maybe trying to go grow good grass here is not compatible with how your family uses the space presently.
Lucinda, did she say what her goal was, indicate what her goal was? She just wanted everything to green up, or?
The question that came in is, I want to know what this invasive species is in my lawn, which we've identified. And so, the other little clue that I'll give you that we noticed is, this is a chain link fence. And I know from her address, she's in an older part, a part of town that has had houses on it before. So we're not talking about the newer houses out east. And so chances are they inherited this lawn. It's probably been renovated, overseeded a number of times. There might have been a poor grass seed. As Debbie suggested, that Poa annua was in something. Maybe they bought it from a big box store. And this came in quite innocently, but nevertheless was introduced. And it's greening up faster than some of the older stuff, which actually looks to be a coarser grass. But we saw in that one picture that, there's a lot of different species in here. So it's had a lot of different things. They have to decide whether or not they want to take on a turf renovation or consider reallocating their space for the dogs, what appears to be dogs and probably kids, and realize that they are going to have a hard time achieving that. So they do have to decide their goals. She did not say this is our goal. She just wanted to know primarily what this was and what she could do to get rid of it.
Well, and it's so much different color, so it really stands out. And a little bit later, it will darken up a little bit, but then it goes to seed very quickly. And those seed heads are very kind of feathery, sort of fluffy looking. It goes to seed, and then it kind of dies off. So she's got a lot of issues that are going on with this lawn. And it's not just that. It is not just that. And this is a clumping bunching type grass. So yeah, it's going to grow like that. And there you can see the seed heads. And it will go to seed, probably because I have some in my yard. Go to seed in June, July, and yeah, it looks kind of funky for a while there. So yeah, it shows up in a lawn very easily. You can see the seed heads there. So it's always going to show in her bluegrass lawn. But I think she's got bigger issues going on than the poa annua, with the traffic. And yeah, you could aerate, you could reseed at that time. The seed, for the most part, goes down in the holes. You're going to have to water it so that it'll germinate in there. But once it gets up, you still have the traffic issues, dogs and kids, and it's not going to have much chance. So, yeah, I think
this one.
Yeah, I think
To
you
get
could.
it up, you have to stay off of it. So regardless, anything, that's why you were. How would you go about saying that to a sensitive person?
That's why we hired you.
I want to say, oh, your lawn is a disaster. You say that to yourself, right? And you say,
Right.
well, let's look at the overall picture that we see here, and it looks like you've got poa annua in here. You've got some probably tall fescue. You've got some brome. You've got certainly some weeds in this area. And did you do any winter watering or fall aeration, fall watering, fall fertilization? These are things that may help your grass to kind of survive through the winter. High traffic, whether it's summer, winter, whatever, can affect the growth of the grass. You may want to look at your sprinkler system, make sure it's working correctly when you turn it on, make sure these areas are getting adequate water, may need more water in that zone to kind of help the grass along a little bit. If you could maybe designate an area for the dogs to do their business and etc., that might help. I think you just have to kind of, and if they start looking at you with, glassy eyed, you're losing them somewhere in there. But I think you'll start out with what she asked about. What is this? This is poa annua. And this is an annual cool season grass. That's why it greens up so much more quickly in your lawn than bluegrass does. Okay. And so start there and kind of, let her maybe lead you with the questions that she's going to be asking you into discussing some of the other issues that are happening in her lawn and other weed issues as well. I don't know, Lucinda, is, certainly you're going to be the one that's that's talking to
I'm
her.
taking you with me. You start with answering the specific question she asked, because it sounds like she wants to solve that problem. And then that is a segue into asking these other questions and, find out what their goals and objectives are. Oftentimes they'll have a budget, in mind or not.
Mhm.
This is obviously a candidate for renovation. It's obviously an older lawn. And that's the information that you share, is just that, you know, this is what's going on. This is typical behavior. It's not uncommon for older bluegrass lawns. If they've been in the ground, we always try and ask that question, especially when we're visiting the western side of the county, is, you know, do you know how old your lawn is? And species wear out, and, you know, plants wear out. And the older bluegrass cultivars are not as strong, for example, as some of the newer cultivars. And so they do just wear out. We don't know what the care, this might be a new home for this homeowner. We don't know, you know, what their care has been, but we also don't know what the prior care has been. You know, this might be really rock hard ground and would benefit from some core aeration, and keeping the pets and the dogs and the kids off of it for a time if they do want to retain a lawn, you know. And then of course the other options are, hey, maybe you want to just let this die and cover it, you know, cover it with heavy mulch and let the kids play on it and let it be what it is. You know, so lots of different directions they could go. They just have to decide. And that, again, is why you provide multiple options to people.
Lucinda, when you go out on these calls, do you log those into the system, or is that done separately?
We weren't able to do any last year because we had really strict requirements on
Right.
who could go out and do that kind of stuff. And even then, we were really careful about distancing protocols and things like that. We're going to start adding these to VMS, and I'll announce them when we add them. And then it'll be, you know, you can sign up and join either me or Lisa or Martha if we go out. Generally, we just want to have one person come with us because we don't want to overwhelm the client. And then you just come along and observe. We like to do lawn and landscape checks after the client has the ability to turn on the sprinkler system, because you will be amazed at the number of issues that certainly have water as a component. And to Debbie's point, she made, well, I guess it was this morning in the apprentice orientation, when they did that role play, you know, the client oftentimes just turns on the sprinkler system at the beginning of the season and forgets about it. And they haven't observed their irrigation system, and they don't know where the pattern is. And so that's often an excellent visual, because you'll turn a zone on and they'll go, oh my goodness, it's not even beginning to reach where it needs to reach. I get it now. And so, you know, you can let the landscape do the work for you when you show them to practice careful observation, right? But to answer your question, Fred, we put them on VMS, and if you go out, if you sign up for it, then you would log it into your personal VMS as a lawn and landscape check in 1 or 2 hours. Generally, we try and keep them to 1 hour.
Lucinda, would you post this somehow? I mean, since you've got all our interest up, what the final results are from this?
Sure.
Yeah. That would
Sure.
I'd be curious. Thank you.
Sure.
I have
Yeah.
a question about the POA annua. So is that just something that, let's say she says, I want, you know, this to be green grass and blah, blah, whatever, and there's going to be Kentucky bluegrass, and she's going to aerate, and she's going to overseed, and she's going to get her sprinkling system squared away, whatever. Is it just one of those things that you just work on your turf and the POA annua goes away, or do you need to do something about that specific grass? That's my question.
Depends on their level of maintenance and how serious they want to be about a perfect lawn. There are many lawns that have POA annua in them that even though they don't look like this, it survives quite nicely. So it's a question of whether you think that's a weed or not. If you wanted, I think what's what caught their attention, if I were to guess, is this distinction.
Right.
Mhm.
You know, they think this looks normal and they're seeing this and think it's a weed or something diseased. Whereas when it darkens, it's going to blend in better, which is maybe why they didn't notice it before. So it's a question of how much effort they want to put on this. Since it's a candidate for renovation, they may want to just take some glyphosate to it and hit every one of these patches if it's really disturbing them before they start the renovation process.
And another, just one more thing to kind of notice about this, it looks like it is mowed really, really
Short.
low.
Mhm.
So maybe in the fall, they think it's a good idea. I have a neighbor that does this, that just practically shaves it down to nothing in the fall instead of leaving some length on there, just like we do in the summer. And so this could be possible. And then you will find that you'll have more dead patches. And then if, as Lucinda said, this shows up because it's bright green, and it comes and it turns green earlier than the bluegrass will. So it really does, you know, it's they look at it and all they see is this bright green stuff out there. So and we have fact sheets on renovating and reseeding the home lawn. There are fact sheets with pictures and suggestions on reseeding and renovating home lawn. So that information is available to you. Take a look at it, see what it says. Yeah. Okay. Anything else on that?
So
Yeah, we'll have
everyone, is it-
Lucinda record herself when she goes
Oh,
goes out to talk to the client, right?
Yeah, right. I'll have to ask them.
So what do we think, everybody? Biotic or abiotic or what?
It could have been
Abiotic?
it could have been abiotic. It could have had a trampoline right over there.
Yeah. I think that was a very good observation, Martha. Yeah, I had not thought about that. So that was very good observation.
And I thought when I looked and I saw that playground doesn't look like it's been there that long. So that playground could have been
Exactly.
right back.
Yeah.
Any-
Good observations. Very good observations. Yeah. Yeah, things that we didn't think about when we were looking at these. Yeah, no, I think that's very good. Yeah. So we're really late. I mean, it's almost 4:30. Oh my gosh.
Well,
So
here's
that was
what-
our practice and then the lawn sheets. Anyway, let's get to the end here. We are going to have, and we talked to the apprentices about this in the morning, but we are going to have additional training days for master gardeners in the diagnostic process with practice and all of that. And the two dates that we have are May 11th and July 27th. And I don't know if they're posted now. Lucinda can tell you that, but we are going to limit it to 20 participants each. Because we want this to be interactive, just like we have done this afternoon. We want it to be interactive where you can ask questions, we can ask questions of you, we can, do the research, we can look at the information that's available to come up, excuse me, with our diagnoses. So we are limiting the number of participants.
But if
Yes.
we get filled up right away, so remember, signups open tomorrow morning for CMGs. If we find we're filled up right away, we've made arrangements and reserved time in Debbie and Jeff's calendar. Thank you very much, to have an overflow session the following week. So if that happens, we'll send out an announcement that we've opened an additional section. So there'd be one on May 18th, and then what did we say, August, what's that, about the 7th or something, 4th?
Something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, whatever
yeah.
that next Tuesday is after July 27th. Yeah. And they will be from 3 to 5. And I think we're getting better at keeping it at 2 hours, believe it or not. So yeah, and hopefully maybe at least by July, maybe we can do this outside or and even if we have some social distancing going on, perhaps we can have some samples available to take a look at, because it is hard to do just from pictures. But really, these sessions are designed to give you practice, to help you to feel more confident in tackling some of these diagnoses, ask extension or things that come in to the office through via email or phones. So this is all about helping you and empowering you to feel like you can start the diagnostic process. We need help. There are not that many of us who do these things. So it would help us a lot. And Lucinda, particularly Lucinda and Martha and Lisa, take some pressure off of them if we can handle more of these things ourselves. And yeah, I think that would be great. And we just want people to feel more confident about diagnosing issues that come through. Yeah.
Right. And Lisa's going to do 2 classes. That bottom banner should say IDing insects to order. So she's going to do a class on June 15th and July 14th. They are a repeat. It's not a series. So sign up for either one of those. And that's IDing insects to order. So that'll help you identify, if it's a beetle or a caterpillar, what order it's in. Oftentimes it can be difficult to get all the way down to species, but if you can get to a close enough order, that helps you then dive into the diagnostic process as to what that insect might be causing the problem. So lots of diagnostic work this summer, consistent with what's going on at the state level. Don't forget to look at that diagnostic toolkit. It will continue to be built all year long. Each month they focus on a different topic. So Tuesday, the 20th, Cassie and I are hosting a practicum to follow up on Dr. Klett's plant ID. And that starts at 11 on Tuesday. It is a pre-registration required, and we'll be going over questions in small group. We'll be breaking out in small group, and you'll have a handful of questions to look at and answer, and then we'll come back together. That's the format of that. And then next month, I think Tamla is doing one. She'll start on IPM. So, lots of great things coming up this year. Take advantage of it. The goal is to make you all feel confident and in diagnostics and not be afraid of it.
I just want to say thank you to Lucinda and Lisa and Martha for hanging in here all day.
All day long.
Well,
you too. We got started early, and this was see, it's an interesting topic, and when we get into it, it's fun to discuss, right?
Yeah, but you just have been fabulous, and we're so very, very lucky to have you all. We really are. So thank you.
Well, it's a great team. All of us staff is so grateful for the work that the volunteers do. I know I speak for both Lisa and Martha, and I'd invite them to chime in and just say, we've got a great group in Arapahoe County, and all very supportive and collaborative. And that makes this volunteer effort so wonderful. So, the goal is to be able to lean on each other and help each other. And that's what we're all about.
Hear, hear.
Okay. Any final questions? I think this is our second to last slide. Let me check. Yeah.
Oh, thank goodness, huh? For you.
No, well, diagnostics is not something that you can skim over. Let's just say that.
And we
because-
did it in less than 3 hours.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's right. One question begets another, and that's how
Exactly.
the process works. So,
But look for the things this summer, and we'll delve more, both for apprentices and for master gardeners. So we look forward to it. We have fun.
yeah. And thank you, Debbie and Jeff, for putting all your time and effort into this. And we're looking forward to the classes later this year.
Sounds
We are
good.
too.
All righty.
Bye,
Thanks.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye,
Thank
thanks so
you.
much.